and the young friends. I'm very happy to be here this afternoon, and I congratulate the organizers of this meet. Swami Muktinathananji from Krishnamat, Lucknow, mentioned to me about this meet, and then I got an invitation from your office bearers. It gave me tremendous joy and pleasure that an institute like IIT Kanpur has formed a society in the name of Swami Vivekananda and organized this meet at the time of its 150th birth anniversary celebration. The other day when I was talking to Mr. Mittal, he said number is not very large. I told him it doesn't matter. Let there be few committed young men and girls who can really understand the depth of their life and pass on their conviction to wherever they go. This is what Swami Vivekananda did, and the time has come again when this has to be done in larger measure. So once again, congratulations, and I pay my compliments to all of you. Let me start with my own life. I come from a small town. My family also are not very exposed to modern world. But like all of you, I was also good in studies. The only academic aim of mine was to enter then Roorkee University, which was very near to my hometown, only 25 kilometers away. And that was the sole aim of my studies. I was not eligible in terms of age after my intermediate. I did my BSc Part 1 and then appeared for Roorkee. And to my utter surprise and pleasure, I topped the entrance examination. I was not a very studious type of boy, took my studies in a very light manner, of course seriously. And I could maintain my position all through. In IIT Roorkee, which subsequently became, I maintained my first position in all semesters, all branches, and ultimately I was the best all-rounder of the university. I am not saying all this to highlight myself. There is a purpose of what I am going to say subsequently. But at that time, there was no campus interviews. And as I said, I didn't come from a family which was very much exposed. I didn't have the proper guidance also. So I wandered a little bit and eventually landed in Indian Administrative Service a few years later. Soon after entering the service, a question came before me, why should one be good? A young friend of mine suggested, Mr. Mittal, why do you work hard? Why do you work honestly? such people generally repent towards the end of their life. I was not prepared to take such an advice or answer. But a question arose in my mind: why should one be good? Is there any science behind being good? Or it is just a matter of random choice, like you pick up a slip here and say what it is? I had, as a child, I had a keen observation power, and I could see people the way I saw religion around me in my childhood. It confused me further. I saw so-called religious persons of my town doing very religious activities. And this always gave rise to a question in my mind: what is religion? If these persons are religious, then this religion is not acceptable to me. And if they are not religion, then what religion is? With this background in mind and this kind of situation before me, a great urge came to my mind to study religion, to study human life. And in search of that answer, I came across Swami Vivekananda. That was the year 1980. I came to Lucknow on a posting and came in touch with Rakesh Mutt. There I got a set of books, complete works of Swami Vivekananda. That was one influence for me, though a major one. There were other influences also. Kabir influenced me. Mahatma Gandhi influenced me. They all have been revolutionary in their own fields. But the clear message about religion, about spirituality, as somebody said, where religion ends, spirituality begins, very well said. But that has to be a path, generally. Maybe one transcends it immediately. Swami Vivekananda as a child, Narendra, was not an easy child. For his parents, for his teachers, and equally for his master, Swami Ramakrishna Paramhans. He weighed the pros and cons of any suggestion given to him. He even put Swami Ramakrishna to test several times. So first of all, religion or spirituality is not a field where Christians are not allowed. In fact, if religion or spirituality fails to answer our question, it is no religion. Narendra raised many questions, and Swami Ramakrishna Paramhans, being a saint of the highest order, mankind is yet to understand him fully, had that sight, could satisfy him in all his queries. What strange is the course of human life? All that Narendra wanted in life was a good job. To begin with, he came from a good family. But very soon, some family calamities reduced them to a state of peculiarity. And even day-to-day living became difficult. And in that state of mind, he comes across Swami Ramakrishna Paramahans, who was perhaps waiting for him. Tears rolled his eyes when he saw a young boy coming to him. Apart from many answers given by Swami Ramakrishna Paramahans, he asked for a livelihood, for a job. And instead of giving any assurance, he suggested, why don't you ask Mom? And tried, those words couldn't come from his mouth. This is what human life is. We are all destined in our own way. And please don't take destiny as something, as a state of helplessness. It is something created by us, not imposed on us. It's our choice. I was very happy when this kind of extempore debate was going on. Topics were very wisely chosen. All of them showed eagerness to speak. It's a different matter. Some of them couldn't express. But it does not reduce their urge, their resolve. I was also a very shy boy. I remember as a student of Roorkee University, I was member of the student council and couldn't utter a word. So what you are today is not an indication what you are going to be. There is no limit. It is only a question of opening our inner potential. So none of you should feel restrained. Be free. Expand. Expand. Our body grows up to a limit. Maybe all of you have reached that stage. Maybe some of you will grow few inches more and few kg more. That's all. But beyond a point, your body will not grow. What will grow thereafter? It's your mind. It's your intellect. It is your spirit which will grow, expand. Larger is the mind's growth, I think larger is your spiritual dimension. So, sow the seed. When in 1980, when I came up with this question, I came across many books, many great personalities, many organizations. And today I can say what I saw 30 years back, 32 years back, is taking the shape of a tree now. It does. Nobody can be fool nature. The laws of nature are perfect. You reap what you sow. Why not to sow the seeds of good thoughts? Good actions will follow. And this is where youth is important to us. Go to the times of Swami Vivekananda. He was born in 19th century. When Ramakrishna Paramahans died, he was only 23-year-old. And Ramakrishna Paramahansa has entrusted him the responsibility of taking his task ahead. There was none to guide him. There were 8 disciples who had grown under the monitorship, rather, not leadership of Narendra. They were together for a period when Ramkrishna Paramhans was undergoing treatment of his disease. And that brought, I think, the seeds of Ramkrishna mission were sown at that time. After his death, when he was only 23, of course, Ma was there, Sharda Devi, her loving protection was there, but everything was to grow from within. Few years they lived as a place, and then some ideas were crystallized. It was 1891 when Narendra became Swami Vivekananda. Not before that. As a monk, he decided to go around the country. This is what every great leader has done. Know your place, know your motherland, know your people present. And he found that this religion has done a lot of harm to this country. A wrongly interpreted religion, and that is why somebody said it is the opium of masses. People were poor, people were illiterate, they believed in all sorts of superstitions. And when he saw this scene closely during his wanderings to the country, as a common man, sometimes he went hungry. He saw poverty, felt it. His wanderings gave a very pathetic description of his difficulties. At times he was forced to live on dry breads. Then he said, I don't accept this religion. He had heard of World Religion Parliament in Chicago to be held in September 1893, and had desired to participate. A mere thought to actuality, matter of few months. He had no whereabouts, no proper introductions, no money. But nature conspired to facilitate all this. He said, wonder how things change when you take a resolve. And there are many great men even like this. If you talk of the ISKCON movement, if you read of many social movements, Swami Dayananda, Swami Vivekananda equally. When our resolve is strong, nature works. What is the science? Science is perhaps approaching this now. I'll come to that when I had interaction with some of the Nobel laureates. What do they feel about human life now? And more has to come. And in that assembly, he spoke almost extempore. But the words came from his heart, not his head. And he mesmerized the whole world. A new definition to religion came. A religion is not a corner activity carried in some part of the day. Religion is a every moment activity. How do you live? How do you interact? What do you do? And that was the greatest message of Swami Vivekananda. At that time, the so-called religion was prevailing, particularly in the East, and he saw material prosperity in the West. And he realized the need of coming together. He said, religion needs science, we need education, we need economic prosperity. And unless that is achieved, religion has no meaning. This is how we have to look at the contribution of Swami Vivekananda. He lived only 39. And of this 39, you can say hardly 10 years of active life he had. He came out of his place in Bengal in 1991, and he became very sick by the end of 1901. Only 10 years he had active life. He has written a book on himself. In fact, I am carrying that book, somebody gave me, I read it only last year. There were periods of pessimism in his life. But it was only when he has pre-nomination that he won't cross 40. But he also knew that if he lives 40, he will do his job. And I was showing a friend here. During the last days he says, I know I won't cross 40, but I need not. I have done my work. My work will live for centuries. In fact, I don't want to live because as long as big tree is there, small trees will not grow. And he left agenda to be fulfilled by others. Now, what message does it give to youth? I was inspired, and that single question, why should one be good? I contemplated it. I was a science student, as I told you. And unless the situation is analyzed properly, I won't believe it. I will not accept it. My contemplation went for almost a decade. Because living a thing, you may have an idea, you may appreciate an idea, but living that idea, it has to go into your blood chemistry. Being good doesn't mean a few qualities. This confusion prevails in our services also, when we say, I am an honest officer and honest people suffer. Honesty is a much wider situation. When I first met Mr. E. Sridharan, who happens to be my spiritual brother, 10 years back, my first question was to him was, sir, what is the secret of your success? And I put a condition, sir, I want a one-line answer. And he was smarter than me. He said, why do you need one line? One word is enough. The word he said was integrity. We have to make our personality integrated in many respects. When we say IIT Kanpur is a good institute, one of the best institutes, does it mean IIT has good buildings? Enough? You have to have a good building, you have to have good faculty, you have to have a good library, you have to have a good sports facilities, so many things. If an institute needs so many things to be called, put in the category of good institute, the mankind, the human being, This is the best creation. I think I have been in the medical department and have come across with best surgeons and doctors of the country. And they all say we hardly know about 10% of the human body. This is the complexity of human being. If that complex creation of nature is to be called good, then how many qualities are there? My analysis was, we suffer not because of our good qualities, but we suffer because of our missing qualities. Like I gave an example of a student, suppose you have to appear in 10 papers. 9 papers you score almost 100% marks. But in one paper you score only 10% marks. You will be pass or fail. Fail because of those 9 subjects or because of one subject. So when we suffer in our life, an analysis is required. What quality I am missing? Somebody said anger. The analysis was quite good. A single defect can put you wrong totally, even if you are 100% right. If you have lost your temper, you have lost everything. Somewhere you need to show courage. You fail to do so. You're out. So our emphasis should be, my dear young friends, be an integrated person. Cultivate those qualities which you lack. And aim should be 100%. Zero defect. We all talk of zero error and zero defect. And this is what spirituality is. And beyond a point, it is only our interactional excellence. How do we conduct ourselves in this world? And no matter when do you begin, every beginning is welcome. This is an area where it is never too late. So whenever you come across a situation and that situation frustrates you, have a look within. Where did I go wrong? And if you are honest to yourself, you will find the answer. Wonders happen. Not, I have no intention of comparing myself with these great men. But I had one experience in my life. It was in '99 when I was observer in parliament elections in Tamil Nadu. During my last visit, when I was leaving the place, I saw a newspaper, Hindu, there. And there was a news item, World Spiritual Meet in United Nations in August 2000. That was to be 10 months ahead. I entertained that desire, that wish. Let me see what happens in this. Why country, world is talking of a spirituality now towards the end of 20th century. I entertained that. With that cutting, I came back to Lucknow. But this thing was roaming in my mind. Can I attend this? 2-3 months passed, I came and I had no clue about. I was not internet savvy, maybe at that time had I searched something I would have found. On 14th January, a book of mine was released by then Human Resource Development Minister, Murli Manohar Joshi, in Lucknow. And I put this, sir, is there some conference of this type in United Nations? Well, yes, I have heard of it, but I don't know the details. and he gave me a name. For details you contact him. To cut the matter short, there were many difficulties, but I was bent upon and I shall attend this. And I could make my way to that conference. India had the largest delegation of 300 persons there, because India is considered to be the most religious and spiritual country. There are many countries. But what I noticed there was that in a period of 100 years, when Swami Vivekananda came on the scene, the emphasis shifted from humanity. Professor Mishra was talking about humanity, a very noble idea, and I think that is what we require today, to complete materialistic. Per capita income has increased, gross national product has increased, but happiness levels have come down. Is it success? Is it growth? The question has to be raised, particularly the intelligent boys and girls like you. It needs that very, very honest analysis. Last week, I am been recently elected as president of Lucknow Management Association, and we organized a talk of 2 Nobel laureates in medical university. They were basic researchers, so they were talking of research and all. And in that context, they were comparing India and China. Obviously, China is ahead of us in research and economic parameters and all. But during the dinner time, I was asking, sir, is there any area where India beats China? He said, very good question, let me think about it. And soon after he came, I think it is happiness. There is no match. But my dear young friend, we don't want a passive happiness, a happiness of ignorance. Our spirituality advocates happiness of knowledge, of optimism. The other day, a friend of mine gave me 2 cuttings from Times of Economic Times. One is a small one, paying for happiness. And the one line conclusion is, by helping others, by sharing with others, by giving others in whatever form it may be, we create our own happiness. That is the science of happiness. And this has to be the agenda of 21st century. We are spending mind-boggling amounts in science and technology. No problem, let us do that. But if happiness evading us despite all this, I think it's a matter of concern. And this is where we require understanding of spirituality, goodness, human life. Few months back, another Nobel laureate had come to PGI Lucknow. He came 10 years earlier also, when he delivered convocation address in PGI. He was inventor of MRI, you all know. And he says, these images have a direct bearing with your state of mind. And you, India, are fortunate that you have so much of finer sciences with you. The small film was going on where Ast, this all those names. Understand the science behind it. Eventually you transcend all those things. You need not do anything. It becomes a part of you. You don't take any effort. In fact, good life is one, a happy life is one, when you live effortlessly. No effort is required. One day I was addressing to officers in a district. Their collector has called me on stress-free management or positive thinking in administration. Somebody asked me, sir, how do we test I am a positive thinker? And suddenly a phrase came to my mind. When the difference between work and rest goes away, you are a positive thinker. Many people say, how do you work so much? And generally my question is, where is the difference between work and rest? When we play hard game of tennis, tennis has been my favorite game. I used to play in South Club in Calcutta, where I was posted there. Harder the game of tennis and more relaxed you are. So it has nothing to do with physical fatigue or effort. Let our work be our joy. Choose your work. And if work has comes to you as a part of our destiny, let us enjoy it. Said, when you have not what you like, you must like what you have. That is what the message is. In 21st century, there has to be a convergence of science and spirituality. Spirituality without science, in fact, spiritual word is an integrated term. I was also present in Dalai Lama's meet at Varanasi, Sarnath, on 1st January 2000. And in that message, Dalai Lama is a great person. If you have not read his books, try to read The Power of Compassion. There are several books of his. He says we need only one revolution, and that revolution is a spiritual revolution. And he added further, when I say spiritual revolution, it means economic, social, political. It's not something, some sacrificing thing. It is a combination, a wholesome approach, an integrated approach. How do we say, I have written several books, I have given some books to your society also. I had a nephew in USA. In 2002, a book of mine was to be released in Denver. He was posted in Denver. He offered me, and in fact requested me to stay with him. He was married only 6 months back. I had not met his wife. I was keen to meet. When I reached Denver, he came to receive me at the airport, but he was alone. I thought his wife must be making delicacies for me at home. But then soon as we started home, he said, "Uncle, I have not told you one thing." I go, "What?" "My marriage has failed. I am alone, and whatever cook I will serve you. And no problem in that. I am not passing a judgment also in that incident. But all I am saying is, that was the year 2002, and today is 2012, almost 10 years. That boy was a product of BHU, wonderful boy with fine taste. He was a photographer, he was a painter, he was a tabla player. All his joy of life went away with that one incident. today in the world marriage. But a good marriage plays an important role in our life, in our happiness. And if somehow in the garb of this modernity and whatnot, and this is just one incident, I mean there are several other factors, other incidents. And how I think there is no conflict. They all can be reconciled in a balanced manner. I am not saying divorce is a productive word. In fact, I advocate a happy divorce any day than the unhappy alliance. But happiness should be the key word. It has to be, even Swami Vivekananda didn't marry, but Arvindo married. His marriage, he transcended marriage. In fact, in his book, he writes a letter to his wife, Ranali, when he says, I'm sorry, I'm not able to explain why are we not living together. But that is a different state of mind. So, goal should be the happiness, the bliss, and that has to come only when you believe, you pay attention to your wholesome development. Inner growth, outer growth, both. I won't add more, nobody will advocate. Swami Vivekananda said, he emphasized why we need science, we need economic development, we need education, we need medicine. That kind of ignorance, bliss of ignorance is not required. And you are in a time where challenges are many, and I also know you are capable of. Several times I have interacted with IIM boys in Lucknow, and they have answers to all the problems. It's a different matter, they may not be able to act on them. The law of evolution says the challenges will increase, but the capabilities also increase. So I feel and I firmly believe that you will find the answers, but that will come only when you develop your wholesome personality like Swami Vivekananda, and may this society grow more and more. Again, I would repeat again, we need crowds in this. As I say, in a fight of Kauravas and Pandavas, out of 106 we only need 5. So if 5% IIT students join this, good enough. They are more than 95%. It's only few who lead the society, who lead the country, who lead the world. I wish you all the best. Thanks for inviting me, and I could share my conviction with you. And in future also, if any occasion to interact, I will be too happy to do that. If you have any questions, any suggestions, any observation, I will be too happy to answer that. Thank you. I distribute 2 papers, rather 3.
Has any questions?
Do you have any questions? Questions?
I personally had a question.
Yeah.
So you were speaking of, a few individuals can change the world and this thing. So I had a friendly business question, although I would not relate it to corruption and this movements around. I had one particular question as to, in an ideal society, as seen by Swamiji and this thing, should a decision be taken by few learned individuals, or should we give the choice to all individuals and try to educate them? I am coming to the question of democracy, not in just an election, in any other decision making. Should all the persons involved be taking a decision, or should persons come to such a level that they should be then given a choice to take a decision?
You know, this question of Indian democracy is very often talked about. It has both sides. Many times it is said that we are not fit for democracy. I have contemplated a lot on this. In fact, there was a conference in BHU a few years back. There are shortcomings, there are difficulties, but they are all relative things. Having served in the Indian service and having seen the society closely, I think there is no better alternative to democracy in a country like ours. It's a great country, I tell you. Don't go only by the so-called Dainik Jagran headlines or TV headlines. Lot of good things are happening here. Lot of good things are happening here. They never come to the light of the people, and this is what keeping our country, our society going. Nevertheless, I am not defending any of our misdeeds. They have to be condemned. They have to be dealt in the right manner. But again, few individuals can make the difference. Look at the example of Bihar. I come across large number of youth from Bihar when I sit in the interview boards. And universally they say one man has made the difference. And this instrument of democracy, I have been observer in several states and several departments. Our populace, our voters, they may be illiterate, but they are not fools. Collectively, they give an intelligent verdict. If at times it is a split verdict, it's a state of confusion. Even now I am confused. When it comes to voting in my own constituency in Lucknow, I am yet not very clear whom to vote. So, but collectively somehow the forces of nature play in such a manner that people are shunted out. And you cannot imagine this strength of ours, this fortune of ours, if you don't go across. One day, I was commissioner of Lucknow, a Pakistani delegation had come and we were receiving that delegation. So one of my junior colleagues who was collector, he also expressed his view. The head of Pakistani delegation rose while he was speaking. Sir, I will intervene. I can't stop myself. And he said, I feel so envious of you that even a public government servant can express himself so freely. So all that is not bad in our country. Who stops? In Lucknow, when I was commissioner 2007, city vote percentage was 40%. We intellectuals make all kinds of accusations and this thing, but when it comes to playing our role, we don't play it. While at the condemning, we are the first. We demand all sorts of facilities from the government, from the system, without even thinking what are we contributing in making the system better. On the other hand, it also reminds me of an incident where I was observer in Andhra Pradesh, in what was that district, Guntur district. On the day of voting, I found workers, laborers doing the job in the field. I asked my hospital, are they not going for voting? Sir, they can't afford even one day loss in farm because crop is ripe. If they delay harvesting by one day, lot of grain will fall in the field. So what they do is half the team will go for voting in the morning, and that is our strength. We have to strengthen our democracy. When we come to the rural folk, We have not been able to find answer to their education. I am equally to be blamed. We have not been able to find answers to their health problems, despite spending billions and billions of rupees. Social security, public distribution, all those things. This is where all this brain is required. The management of these social services is a great challenge today. This is how things will, I am sure that things will improve. Technology is coming, the kind of technology. When I entered the service, getting a phone call from my district headquarters to divisional headquarters was a task. Today, look at the communication, the railway system. For me, it is mind-boggling. You are much more technology savvy than I am. Getting a reservation from Hyderabad to Bangalore, sitting in Lucknow was a 139 number. This is what our people have done. And we are capable of doing, provided we need the urge and we feel that gain is more than the gain. So, this is the agenda for you. If everything is sorted out, what will you do? You are in your formative age. It's a challenge we pass on to you. And you are capable of doing it.
Any other question?
In the context of your answer about our role in the democracy as a voter, I want to know that we are not compelled to choose a less culprit among politicians from the pool of so many culprits. Are we not compelled? And I want to know your views upon the right to reject option.
I would not answer that. Perhaps I am not competent also. But, there are two observations to this. One is, lot of reforms are required. Even I fail to understand why are we not able to implement the obvious. And person sitting in the prison after being sentenced for life and is qualified to, so I have no defense to this. Somewhere there is wrong, there is a strong realization for this, and eventually it will come through. The second hope is, we are talking in a session which is on spirituality, on Vivekananda. When that kind of contemplation goes, ultimately all these thieves are sufferers. In our service also, I don't know whether you are aware, there are some very corrupt people. In 10 years back, an exercise was carried out. Who are the most corrupt 3 officers? System could not punish them. Maybe they rewarded them, but nature punished them. There is something like nature also. Spirituality means when you believe in nature's laws. There are man-made laws, there are God-made laws, nature-made laws. We may escape violation of man-made law, but we can never escape nature's made laws. If I play with my body, I am bound to fall sick in due course. What will you do then? What amount of money can cure you at that time? So, it is another approach. I am not saying we should wait for that time. Certainly many reforms are required, and nature is projecting. How did Anna Hazare came in the scene? I went to Anna Hazare village in 1984. He started only with his village. I spent half day there. But today, who has projected? Do you think Anna Hazare planned himself to come up to that kind of leadership, or it's nature's forces which projected him there? So who knows who will come tomorrow? Who will see the Tamil Nadu election which I mentioned? I was the observer in Raja's constituency in Taralambur. He was a young, enthusiastic person at that time. Who knew he will spend so much time in Bihar? These things were not even conceivable at 10 years back. But today they are possible. Today Kalmadi is in jail. It's no mean achievement. Nobody could think of these kind of things happening even 10 years back. Things will happen. Let us hope these wicked people will learn both ways. By the man-made laws will teach them things. And then God will. This Sukhramji, we remember him 20 years back he was caught with lot of cash. But today, this itself should be a message to the society. We need lot of people. We can't sit idle and we can't feel happy if nature will take care. After all, we are also nature's product. Nature acts only through us. If we don't act, what can nature do?
Sir, I want to ask a question. If that is reservation justified in democracy, and how can youth be empowered in spite of reservation?
You call me once more. These questions are very difficult to answer. Reservations and all those things. They are historical correction of historical errors. You have not seen of or thought of this study of this society is not easy. It's a very complex society. Having, in fact, a letter I wrote on the day of my retirement, and I mentioned, having mingled so much with the society, I know very little of it. What kind of atrocities these upper caste and all those things carried out. I mean, there may be errors, reactional errors. They may not be the right answers. But to put a question mark on this straight away is not a fair. You have to study deep implications of these things.
One or two short questions. If not, let's felicitate these people.
Thank you very much, sir.
And I urge you to become a positive thinker, keep this poster in your room.
Thank you.
What is the lead of